All right, what podcast is this?
He says 31.
No,
Trey,
41.
No. Trey 1.
31.
Whatever 1 is.
This is not 31.
Yes.
Bullshit.
He says 31. I don't know. I thought we were still in the
I thought
20s.
I thought we just did 39.
I
No,
just
no.
uploaded 30. We did 20.
I think we're still in the 20s.
No, we're in 31.
Like 23 or 28, maybe.
It's 31.
It can't be 31.
Surprise us and start taking old episodes and just mash them into new episodes. What's up, guys? Pulling the Thread Podcast. Apparently, episode what? 31?
31.
31.
31.
Like Trey Deuce.
Trey Deuce.
Did you ever have a 32 caliber pistol
I have one, yeah.
with you right now?
Of course. It's in an ankle holster.
Shut the fuck up.
What
You
better
have
caliber what better caliber than the 32 in an ankle holster?
Doesn't Glock make something that would be a 9mm that's the same size as a 32
Okay,
pistol?
we've already gone down the Glock rabbit hole. Those are terrible guns.
Okay.
Like
What's appropriate for you? Can't you get like a single stack, really small 1911 chambered in 9mm?
I'm sure you could, but it wouldn't be as cool as a 32. We're having a conversation. If I had a
really have a 32?
if I had a 9mm, doesn't matter what it is, 9mm whatever, in an ankle holster, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. But because it's a 32, we're talking about it. You know, 32 was the defensive round for a long time. Long time.
I only know it because rappers are like Trey Deuce. Deuce.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of presidents carried
the barrel tip
pocket
up on it?
32s. No, it does not.
Do any real guns have the barrel tip up like those starter pistols had?
Yes, there is some Beretta pistols that barrel tip. There's a 22, there's a 380, and I believe they even have a 9mm that barrel tip.
I thought it was Grand Thumb. I don't know what I was watching. It wasn't Grand Thumb. I saw it, I think, this morning. And a dude picks up this rifle, and it looks pretty big, and I'm like, maybe that's a saw or something, right? And it says that it's a replacement for the 50 cal, but he's like shoulder. It looks pretty heavy, like when a dude's like, I'm gonna shoulder fire this Barrett. It looked kind of like that. It looked really heavy, but he was shooting the shit out of this thing, whatever it was.
It's crazy. It's crazy that I am not linked to you.
No, but our phones are in this. Did you see the video?
You are not linked to me, and I watched the same video driving in here. It's a.
You watched the video driving in here.
Yeah. Come on, you. I have a hard time.
I have a chauffeur.
I have a hard time explaining this, and a lot of people don't know that. As a child of the 80s, I can drive, eat, talk on the phone, and change my clothes all while driving in a car.
That's true. With no seatbelt.
With no seatbelt on, all things that were possible because I'm a child of the 80s. If you think that you can't multitask to that level, you're not pushing yourself.
And they've removed smoking now. Like most people
were
smoking
there was
while
some
doing
smoking
all
going
of
on
that.
too. You know, and in the 80s, I was doing it while driving a stick shift.
Yep.
So it was multitask.
Have you ever seen the car that had the divots in the dash to put your baby? There was a
I've
lot
seen
of those cars, actually.
I've seen them in the back. They would be in the back window.
So we used to ride in the back of a Pontiac Grand Am. We'd get up there on that deck that doesn't exist anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember sliding around in the back of my dad's Cuda, just sliding around in the back, and it had this weird, in the back deck where the speakers were, it had like this weird material.
Yes.
That was hard, and it was squares, and you could break it. And so I was breaking it. I was back there breaking this material. Oh, I got a whooping. Boy,
Did you ever get
in
the shower and pull on that gummy worm, and it was the caulk that fucking they caulked the whole shower?
I never did that. No.
Yeah.
No, never did that.
Or we were living in, I guess it was, we were living in my dad was stationed in Camp Pendleton. We were living in military housing, but I don't think it was like Oceanside military housing. I think it wasn't on Camp Pendleton, maybe.
Maybe back then, yeah.
We had huge pine trees, and you could climb on the tree, get on top of the roof, and go down. And as kids, we were putting gravel off the roof down in these pipes. So they're calling the maintenance people, and they're like, "We don't know how these rocks are getting in here," but it was me and my sister and friends doing this shit. And then we had this like asphalt driveway, and you could get a screwdriver and start chipping the asphalt off. So like, we were just like, we weren't doing it to be assholes or destructive. It was just like pulling the thread, and it unraveled the whole fucking sweater. So what's going on out in the world? Is Russia really being? Is there a coup going on? Is that real or?
There are two possibilities. One, it's real,
and it's our fault.
No, one, the coup is real, or two, they just use our intelligence assets against us, and it's 100% not real. And there soon will be 25,000 mercenaries in Belarus that will be flanking the Ukrainians. I don't know. I've heard some pretty credible sources to go both ways, whether it was actual legit, or whether it was this is all just for show, for us in the Western, because there are a couple of key things that people aren't paying attention to. One, the Wagner forces had the week prior to any of this even happening, Wagner had already made an agreement where the army was going to absorb all the Wagner guys.
Ooh.
Not in a bad way. They were just like, hey, you're going to be part of the army now because you're bitching that you don't have ammo. And so Prigozhin got in a pissing contest with the two head dogs, their Secretary of Defense and their I don't know what the other guy is, but he was having a pissing contest with the two top dogs. Okay. Now, Prigozhin is fighting the war. Prigozhin and the Wagner guys are fighting the war the way Putin wants to fight it. Regular Russian army is fighting the war doctrinally now, meaning they're putting out the landmines, they're digging trenches, they're doing real defensive operations.
Like we're really going to be there.
Yeah, they're doing really defensive operations. And when you are in a special military engagement, defensive operations don't look good. Now,
because they're planning on actual World War III.
Well, it's not planning on World War III, but when you're considered, one of the top tier militaries in the world, you want to, and you're going to do a special military engagement. You want it to be like the U.S. You want to when you get to the breach point, you blow through the breach point, and in 48 hours the country is taken over. That's what
shock and awe.
That's what everybody was looking for. Now, so Prigozhin, as far as Wagner was concerned, they had already been pulled out of the line. They weren't even being used in the defense of Ukraine. Okay? So they're already pulled down the line. He gets mad. He doesn't say anything bad about Putin until later. And he's like, I'm going to go beat these two dudes up. I'm going to go beat the SecDef up for Russia. And they move towards the Kremlin. The Kremlin enacts war powers that they've never used before as far as the defense of Moscow, which gives the president a bunch of leeway. Now,
Putin, who is boys with this
yes guy. That's why. Okay, so if you just think about the things that happened in the course of this operation, he takes 2 military bases without firing a shot. Now, and not only does he take these 2 military bases without firing a shot, he specifically comes out and says, hey, we're not going to do anything here. We just want to make sure that they stop targeting Wagner troops, and they're going to keep sending aircraft against Ukraine. Okay? So he didn't interrupt real military operations. That's the key here. Like, he didn't interrupt real military operations. And then he starts convoying towards Moscow. They show pictures. They talk about helicopters they shot down, but you never see the helicopters.
The helicopters didn't get shot down, yeah. I thought the helicopters supposedly fired rockets.
It's very sketchy. They show a convoy. They show the convoy being hit, they show his convoy being hit by some rockets.
That could be Chat GPT.
Well, again, now here's the key. They show his convoy getting hit. He keeps going. He gets close to Moscow. Putin finally comes out and is like, hey, this is treason. You can't do this, blah, blah, blah. But remember, it's been 3 days, and Putin has never come out against Prigozhin, and Prigozhin never said anything bad about Putin. He finally says all this shit. Hey, this is treason, blah, blah, blah. And then the president of Belarus, who was technically in exile, brokers a deal for Prigozhin to go to Belarus, and that's what stops this whole madness? Well, the problem is, remember, the convoy was hit, but when Prigozhin steps away and says, hey, I was worried that there was going to be Russian bloodshed. I thought I could, get up there and beat these two guys up without any resistance. But we don't want any Russian bloodshed, and no Russians have been killed in this, so I'm going to go to Belarus. Now, remember, they said helicopters got shot down. They said his convoy got hit. But then in the end, when it's all over, he says no Russians were killed. So it could all be just smoke and mirrors, right? It could be smoke and mirrors. And there is a substantial portion of people, 2 days before any of this happened, the Defense Department came out and said they found $6.2 trillion to give away to the Ukrainians. Immediately after that, Prigozhin goes on his run to Moscow. It could be that he went as far as he went until they made that payment and then turned around, and him and Putin are laughing and counting that money in their basement right now. Or all of this could be real, and Prigozhin is in big trouble. The problem is, first off, Putin is a hardcore. The dude rides lions and, wrestles polar bears and shit. Does he allow Wagner Group to commit mutiny and not annihilate them? There's no scenario where they don't wipe those guys out.
Didn't Putin, in fact, stand up Wagner Group? Wasn't he the originator of Wagner, and then he put Prigozhin in place?
There is a lot of... Prigozhin is like the figurehead for Wagner. Wagner is actually a corporation, a big one. And, when they talk about 25,000 troops in Ukraine, there are more Wagner guys in Africa. So when people are talking about...
Same thing in Syria. Those like
Wagner. Yeah, that's all.
We fucking dropped bombs on those dudes.
By the way, President Trump, first person to kill Russians since World War II. But so it's very complex because Wagner Group, they protect the gold mines in Africa. They make the Russians a lot of money. And when this happened,
they kind of keep the Chinese in check in Africa too?
When all this happened, there wasn't like any turmoil in Africa. The other thing that is kind of telling about what is really going on is you have a substantial force, whether it's true or not. Prigozhin said he had 25,000 guys, and they were going to attack Moscow. Not a single. It didn't affect the line in Ukraine one bit. Now, and he kept talking about 1914. When that happened in 1914, when the revolution happened in 1914, the Soviet or the Russian and the German line completely collapsed. The war ended. So this could all be an elaborate fake to get 25,000 Ukrainian troops into Belarus. I mean, not Ukrainian, but Russian troops into Belarus so that they can attack from that flank.
Is Belarus close there?
Yeah,
too?
it's up north. So, or I'm probably looking at the map wrong, but so it could be an elaborate fake.
Why don't we just let them fucking have Ukraine?
Prigozhin could be dead too right now. He could have been killed already.
Prigozhin, who's that?
That's the head of Prigozhin or whatever. That's the head of Wagner.
Okay.
He could be dead, But I don't know, because there was a lot of video of him driving around in his car in town and people shaking his hands. So they could have killed him anytime they wanted to. And I know that he and Putin are kind of pals. So this might all just be an elaborate fake. Or maybe not, whatever. Either way, you had this kind of turmoil going on in Russia, and it did not affect what the outcome. It didn't affect anything on the line for Ukraine.
Why do we as U.S. citizens care?
What about Ukraine?
Yeah, what do we give a shit about what's going on with Wagner Group and Russia? How does it affect the normal fucking working man?
It doesn't at all. It doesn't affect us at all.
So I hear people
except taxes, because we are the ones. The reality is, the Ukrainians aren't paying anything to fight the Russians. We are paying it all. So your tax dollars, that's how you should be.
Don't they have a mandatory draft right now going on in Ukraine? They're just snatching dudes up and being like, "Here you go, front line."
They just came out with it's like their complete service where everybody has to serve now. They just put that out, which, guys, I know some people are going to argue different, but you don't do a mandatory draft for all military age men unless your casualty rates are a lot higher than what they're telling you. I don't know, because they've been snatching and grabbing for a while. Like, again, that video I told you about where that guy was just going toe-to-toe with those Russians and the old man is in there handing out guns, that guy was drafted.
Yeah, and not only that, and I'm going somewhere with this, right? So the Russians are grabbing people up and conscripting people, emptying prisons out and shit, right? So they put them into the trench warfare, and you have to front towards enemy.
Yeah.
You run and engage the enemy, right? Well, you're going to get shot that way. If you go back towards the Russians, the real Russian military is there, and they're shooting those conscripts for coming backwards.
Well,
are the Ukrainians doing the same thing?
I don't think so. I don't think so. The Ukraine. Here's the thing. The Ukrainian, I don't want to say military in general, because I do believe that they have a large portion of their military that they are not using. But the Ukrainian frontline soldiers, the guys that are out there in the trenches, they are good troops. Like, they are fighting their fucking asses off. But the problem is we're running into a Germany versus Russia scenario. The Russians can afford to throw people to the wind. They can afford it. That's history proven that the Russians can. When you say the Russians have lost 100,000 people, that's so what? The Russians had entire divisions encircled by the Germans and wiped out. Just entire divisions disappearing off the face of the planet. Not once, multiple times. And yet they recreated those divisions and they kept pushing those men. The Germans just ran out of ammunition. They ran out of troops because they couldn't get those frontline soldiers out there fast enough, because the Russians have they have the manpower, and Russians haven't gone to mandatory service yet. If they put in War Power Acts, which they just did because of the Kremlin, they can put 1 million men in uniform. And then what does Ukraine do? They don't have the troops. They cannot fight 1 million, whether they're great troops or not good troops. I mean, that's the fact. They could be terrible troops, but you don't have the weapon systems. You don't have the artillery. You don't have the capability to fight 1 million men. So this is going to be interesting. A lot of people, for the last year, people have been talking about the collapse of Russia, this is working and that is working. But in the reality is, where is any of this stuff working? It's not really working. I mean, it's not really working. So it's interesting. Again, like I said, the Ukrainians are fighting their ass off. The Ukrainians, the guys that are out there actually doing the fighting, those home guard guys, they are fighting their asses off and they're killing Russians wholesale. But again, the difference is the Russians can afford it. You can't go toe to toe with the Russians and try and exchange soldier for soldier. You just can't. You can't do it. It won't work.
So on the live feed, people are asking, "What about Russia? What about Russia?" And my answer is, I don't know anybody in Russia. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah,
it's not changing anything that's happening with anybody that I personally know. Now, the reply to that is, well, your wheat prices are going to go up. Your natural gas is going to go up. Your oil is going to go up. Why would it go up? We already have an embargo on them. None of that shit's coming here. Is it because Russia can't provide to other places, so we're going to sell the shit to other people rather than our citizens? Is that what the fuck's going to happen?
That's the key. The key is
because really the goal, it seems, of our government is to make things difficult for the average U.S. citizen's life.
Yeah, the key here is there's nothing from Russia, unless you're a mad nesting doll collector. There's nothing from Russia that we use on a daily basis. When you're talking about wheat or anything like that, again, nobody, I don't want to say produces like we produce, but we produce like no other. So if wheat prices go up, it's not because
we raise the prices.
It's because we are deciding to, because corporate America is deciding profit over people, and they will send it to wherever it needs to go versus the United States.
Or they just use that as an excuse. We can't get all the fertilizer and urea comes from Russia, and they're not producing, and we're just going to charge you more for what we have.
I mean, I don't know. I don't see anything. I don't see any of that as a problem. And again, I watched a video the other day about a dude living in Siberia, and they still have Coca-Cola in Siberia. So even after the embargo, these guys are still drinking Coca-Cola, like real Coca-Cola, not
they have
not Russian fake Coca-Cola.
They probably have Coca-Cola.
Real Coca.
Coca-Cola was selling to the Nazis.
I know.
The Hollywood was over there filming during the fucking war, making Hollywood movies.
The crazy thing is the guy went over to the ice cream thing, and he pulled out ice cream, and he goes, "You can be whatever you want, and you can be whatever you want in here, Siberia." And they had a chocolate ice cream that was full on Soviet with the star and the hammer and sickle, and then they had Patriot ice cream, and it was an American flag ice cream. Russia's a big place. Like, this is a big place. How many people were affected in the United States by the war on terror? Most people were not affected at all, right? And yet there were Americans in foreign countries being killed and killing other people, and you just went about your daily life. And that's probably the way it is in Russia, even though we want to pretend that Russia is going to collapse at any moment. And here's the problem. Everybody keeps like, "Oh, Putin's done. The difference is Putin is a known entity. So like when you think about the CIA, right? They know, they have a good understanding of what Putin's going to do because we know everything there is about Putin. What happens when he's gone? Who do you think is going to take his place? Somebody who's we're just assuming that it's going to be somebody who's friendly to Western allies. Prigozhin. He wasn't going to beat up the Secretary of Defense in Russia because he wanted to end the war in Ukraine. He was going because he wanted to do a full-scale military action against Ukraine instead of these defensive operations.
Was he going there to punch him in the mouth or to kill him?
Remove them from office is the thing. And here's the other thing that most people don't know. Part of the agreement for him not going is they removed those two guys from their positions. So technically, everybody got what they want. So even Putin, because Putin doesn't want landmines and tank traps and trenches. Putin wants a victory in Ukraine, and the only people who were actually giving him victories was Wagner. Wagner took Bakhmut. They had to suffer, but they took it.
Couldn't Putin just send fucking bombers in there?
That is the interesting problem.
Why haven't they just turned off the fucking electricity?
That's the interesting problem for me is the Western allies are talking about total war, and we're sending equipment based off of total war. And Russia is not doing total war. They're not hitting Ukraine like you would think they would be hitting if they were totally at war with Ukraine. Now, it could be two things. There could be maybe the technology and the capability that we've always assumed that Russia has just doesn't exist, right? Maybe they don't have the bombers to do it. Or maybe they're afraid that those bombers are going to get shut down. Because, what's the worst thing what's the worst thing that could happen for going to total war, like just annihilating Kiev like they did Bakhmut? Because if you look at Ukraine, there are places in Ukraine where everybody's still cafe sitting, drinking coffee, and like the war does not exist. Bakhmut and a bunch of those and all that area, the gray zone that they're fighting in right now, it looks like the moon. Like those cities don't exist.
Yeah.
So
you know who's rebuilding all that? They're already doing contracts for it.
I know
now.
BlackRock got the contract for it, and that's why BlackRock was part of this whole coup thing. So I mean, who knows how this thing's going to end up? But again, there's a lot of areas where this could turn very bad
for us.
Yeah, I mean,
how so?
If Putin backs himself into a corner where he has to exchange nuclear weapons, it'll be the first time. It'll be the first time in a long time that the United States will have to deal with the repercussions of what it's doing.
What do you think that'll be?
What do you mean?
The repercussions?
Well, if we decide that we're going to use nuclear weapons, or he decides he's going to use a nuclear weapon, we're going to respond in kind, and then all bets are off the table. You will lose major metropolitan cities within the continent of the United States.
So who would Putin nuke?
Well, I think the only way it plays out,
he'd nuke Ukraine.
Yeah, the only way it plays out is he uses a tactical nuclear weapon within Ukraine.
Shit, we should both just nuke Ukraine.
That would be an interesting response if he did a tactical nuke somewhere in Ukraine and then we just dropped one in the exact same spot. It would be a very interesting response and might not be the end of the world.
Peace out, Boy Scout.
But a tactical nuclear weapon, I don't see. Again, it's an interesting idea. A tactical nuclear weapon. If he uses a tactical nuclear weapon in Ukraine, do we respond in kind?
He nukes Ukraine, so we throw one into Russia?
No, yeah, that would be the idea. But I think we would let it slide. I think we would let it go. I think we'd be like, hey, don't do that no more. Because a tactical nuclear using a battlefield tactical nuclear weapon is not the same as Hiroshima, right? It's a little bit different. Not much different, but a little bit different. I think we would let it slide.
Do you realize there's people that say that nuclear weapons don't exist?
Yeah, I know.
Or every time something's about to happen, that's when the UFOs show up and disarm them.
Yeah, I think he might be able to get away with a tactical nuclear weapon, but the minute he uses a tactical nuke and destroys Kiev's ability to respond, that is an opportunity for NATO to join the war. I know everybody says
I think that is the real problem.
I know.
There. NATO is the problem.
I know everybody says NATO's already at war, but no, I'm talking about actual Germans in tanks and Lithuanians in tanks crossing the line and going to fight the Russians.
He hits Ukraine,
yeah,
and we just hit Iran.
It'd be again. I think if because the Biden administration is so inept, I think if they did do something weird like that, like if they either hit the same exact spot that the Russians hit with the same yield weapon, or we hit some target that doesn't even make sense,
Mexico City,
I think everybody would pause. Like they would be like, "What the? Hey, this just got out of hand." Right? If we, I don't know, like, sorry Hawaii, if we nuked Hawaii or something.
I think people are naive to think that they even have a say in this. Like if your government, government's going to do whatever the fuck they want to do.
If
whatever they tell you they did is not what happened, and it's just a fucking distraction.
If his finger's hovering over the button, there's no bringing it back.
Are you up to speed on the submarine, the Titanic and the submarine?
Yeah.
Okay, so the Navy knew.
Yes.
That motherfucker imploded a week, and then they just let they were just reporting. Yeah. Are you aware of some of the things that happened in that week that didn't get reported on?
Yes.
What are some of them?
Lab-grown meat was approved by the FDA, and
And just think about this, okay?
The lab grown meat.
Do you think they've been feeding it to you already?
They may have.
Or do you think and just imagine what they're telling you. What are they not? They always get caught for some shit they didn't tell you.
And the crazy thing is, think about this. Lab grown meat was approved and they don't have to report it.
Yes.
So
they don't have to even, it doesn't even have to be
when
put
you
on
go
the
to Burger
label.
King, you could be eating those cancer cells and just enjoying the hell out of it.
Everybody's like, yeah, this tastes different.
There was something with there was also something with bread that they did. There was 2 food things.
Some other things happened.
And
too.
then Joe Biden or Hunter Biden got the softest deal ever created. Like softest deal. The softest deal. Now, hey, you stupid ass lefties, you've actually set precedent. So now every single drug user who gets busted with a firearm that's a felon can point to that case as precedent. Good job. Way to curb gun violence, you morons.
Didn't there was some other shit that went down too. Weren't articles of impeachment put in against Biden?
I believe articles of impeachments. I think they're still arguing about it. But Adam Schiff got censored.
What does that mean?
Nothing. They're making a big deal out of it, like it's a big deal. But it's kind of like they put him in timeout. That doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't in the big scheme of things. It's one of those, oh, naughty, you were lying to the people of the United States, but everybody up there is doing that. So except for I don't know. I don't want to say it.
Did you see Kennedy? Kennedy came out and said a bunch of shit.
Oh yeah, Kennedy is, bro. They are gonna raise Lee Harvey Oswald from the dead if you keep running your mouth like you're doing. Be careful, my man.
And then
be careful.
And then that scientist or whatever is like, Joe Rogan's like, you can come on the show unlimited time and debate him if you don't agree with what he said about COVID and such. And then I saw this morning on Twitter a tweet from Ocasio-Cortez. She's like, I'll come on the show and debate him. Fuck, he should take that bitch up on that.
Oh my God.
Let that dumb bitch on the show. God. And let her face to face with
just
Kennedy.
put her on Joe Rogan and ask her about her bartending days.
Ask her about anything.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's got a sweetheart deal, got a tax deal that no other American can get.
Well, they have a bunch of emails came out. A bunch more of the Epstein list has come out public.
Non-prosecutable though, with Hunter Biden. So
yep. A bunch of the Epstein shit came out. Nobody saw any of that stuff. There was a ton of it, man. They were just reading down the fucking list of it.
Now, the submarine thing is interesting. I heard somebody was trying to argue with me that they didn't want to give away their capability. The Navy didn't want to give their capability away. The problem with that argument is the solstice. What is it? It's not the solstice. That's the other one. But the sonar warning system that we have set up.
They knew when it imploded.
The sonar warning system that we have set up and we've had since the damn 60s. It's not a secret. That's how they found it's open source information in the sense that that's how we knew the Kursk, the Russian submarine that we sent 007 ninjas out to try and raise from the bottom of the sea. That's how we knew the Kursk was gone, because the implosion was picked up. We heard it. It's not new technology. When the Russians fire up one of their nuclear submarines in the Soviet Union, they turn it on and they're going to go to sea. We know that they've just fired up that submarine and they're going to sea. We listen to all that shit.
Isn't that part of that? That's part of that shit out of San Diego SAIC was doing with those.
I mean, it's an old system, and if they could do that, if they could do that back then, they're probably not even they probably don't even have shit in the ocean anymore. They're probably just sitting there on their computer going, "Oh, yep, oh yeah, that thing is definitely sinking to the bottom of the ocean." So one could say that they were using that to cover things that they were about to do. I don't know if that's necessarily true, but yeah, the Navy knew, they knew. And it was the Navy that was heading up that was the Navy that was heading up looking for that ship. And so you have the Coast Guard driving around nowhere near looking for, oh, maybe it popped up. No, come on, guys. Come on. Let's just stop lying to everybody. Those dudes were I knew.
Well, all your news agencies are owned by the fucking White House.
I knew when they said that an hour it takes. I think it's 4 hours to get to the Titanic. When they said that they had lost contact at an hour and so many minutes, I'm like, those motherfuckers are dead. That's how you lose contact with a submarine. It implodes.
How many were in there? There's 4 or something. It's only seats 2.
No. It's I think it was pilot and 4 other people. So, whatever. I mean, if look, guys, I don't care what it is. I don't care if it's Elon's spaceship that's taking the first people to Mars, or it's a submarine that's going to the bottom of the sea. If somebody takes out a Home Depot crescent wrench and starts bolting you in, unless it's 2,000 bolts, you need to immediately get out of that ship and be like, fuck you, keep the money, I'm out. There was no way that just listening to the guy, the owner, listening to him, there's no way I would ever get in that thing.
They didn't want to use 50-year-old white men.
50-year-old white men.
Like the duty experts.
Yeah, didn't want to use
the guys that might know about submarines.
But that's not even the reality. The reality is, if you just watch the guy's interviews, the interviews that he had before making this a public initiative, he threw up so many red flags. That it was like, why would anybody get in this motherfucker? Even Discovery Channel put their crew in there and went on a little, not to the Titanic. They just went, a couple feet under the water and went. Even the Discovery Channel, the dude who doesn't know anything about submarines got out of that fucking submarine and went, yeah, it's not ready. And people paid all that money to be turned into fucking pulp.
Wasn't that was the other thing too? Like, there is no exit hatch. Like, it was
you were bolted
nose
in
cone, right? So at depth of the Titanic, there was nothing they could have done for those people anyways. It's just a recovery mission at that point.
Well, okay. In theory, it had 96 hours of oxygen. So let's say
surface supply?
No, not surface supply. On the boat.
Board.
So let's say I don't know, it just had a ballast or propulsion issue. So more likely a ballast issue. Let's say it had a ballast issue and it just couldn't surface. And they sent their rover down there at 60 hours and they saw the damn thing. They could have done some things to bring it to the surface. But, I mean, would they have been able to do it in time? I don't know. There's things that they could have done that could have managed to get it up closer. But the reality is, I mean, they were almost at 75 hours before they even were close to locating them. So they would, even if they would have found them, they wouldn't have had enough time to bring them up.
It's a trip how everybody was so up in arms and paying attention to this when you got 6 people down there who they didn't know. And those people wouldn't have done shit to help anybody else. I mean, you got motherfuckers in your own town dying 6 at a time, and nobody's saying shit about that.
It's just different. It's different. It's different from the daily news, and it's something that seems extraordinary, so people get rallied around it, or
distraction.
They just get programmed because it's on the news every 20 seconds, and it seems like a big deal that this submarine, it's the crazy thing that the Coast Guard should have came out. The Coast Guard should have came out immediately, walked out and did their first press briefing and went, I just want to prepare you all for this. The submarine was made in some dude's garage out of scrap parts. They didn't make it. We're not looking for them. That's really what they should have done, because just, again, every single possible thing in the submersible world that you could do that's wrong, he did with his submarine. Like, you got to break the rules if you want to be inventive. No, not when you're going down to the bottom of the ocean, dummy.
Is that what he said?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
said that
break it
about a ton of shit. Like they even people.
Was he in the submarine?
Yeah,
Okay.
which is good. I'm glad because that kind of idiot needs to go. But people even were like he was telling people about the material he used, and people were like, that's not going to work. We've already tested it. It's going to work. No, dude, you're a dumbass. You're a dumbass. You know that there's nobody better suited than. And the other thing was, immediately he had like 10 real companies that he listed as partnering with to make this submarine, and immediately they all came out and were like, "Yeah, we had nothing to do with that piece of shit." So I mean, come on, guys, if you're gonna do something dangerous, like fly to Mars, do a little research, see what kind of testing and evaluation they've been doing before you climb into this fucking tin can of death.
Elon Musk comment on it? Has he said?
I'm sure he did, but I mean, I didn't. I mean, what do you say? What do you say?
My submarine would have worked.
Well, that's what I saw, a thing where Elon is going to make a submarine go down and recover the junk that they left by the Titanic. But whatever.
What else is going
on? Is there anything else going on besides war in Ukraine? Russia revolution? No, it wasn't. I don't know. What else is going on? Anything exciting in the horticulture world? Or were you canning? Did I see you canning?
Amanda was
canning. What did she can?
Peaches and jalapenos. Not together. She jarred up a bunch of peaches.
Your peaches or store-bought peaches?
No, farmer's market peaches.
Farmer's market peaches?
And my peaches aren't ready yet. And then she made preserves, jam.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Graham cram jams?
And then cowboy candy, jalapenos. It's like a pickled jalapeno that's sweet. It's like a bread and butter version of the pickled jalapeno. They're really good on hamburgers and shit. I actually had them in eggs this morning. Tastes kind of like sweet chow chow, kind of.
Okay, yeah. What? No? Well, you're shaking your head. What's going on over there?
Dude, it took all day.
You don't like jalapenos.
It took all day. Like
Man,
we brought.
For a dude with all those tattoos, you sure are soft. I mean, you are.
We brought.
I think your next tattoo should be a teddy bear.
I bet he's got a teddy bear. It's probably in his butt.
I got a pink one.
Oh no!
Imagine that. Is that baby taking a shit?
That's a teddy bear taking a poop.
Yeah, it's a Care Bear farting on Jeff Gordon.
Who's Jeff Gordon? Oh, the NASCAR guy?
NASCAR racer.
Is that really a Care Bear?
Uh-huh.
How did I know you have a teddy bear?
How did that happen?
You don't even like NASCAR.
That's why he's farting on Jeff Gordon.
Was Jeff Gordon alive when he did? Jeff Gordon raced the Dakar Rally. Yeah, he did all kinds of other shit.
Dale Earnhardt's the one that died.
I'm sure plenty others have died.
But you weren't a fan. You weren't running around with the number 3 on everything.
I had it tattooed right here, but we tattooed over it.
The 24 Care Bear?
No, the 3.
Oh, why? Why'd you tattoo over it?
Just ran out of space.
So you're saying that Jeff Gordon gets to keep a spot? I mean,
as long as he's getting farted on.
But he's still got a spot.
Are you going to have a bunch of those lasered off so you can put new ones on?
Nah, just go over them.
Are you eventually just going to be all like one of them dudes that just has his whole arm's going to be black?
Probably.
Why do they do that? They just want some tattoos and there's nothing else you can fucking put there?
Or they had something on there that was really bad.
Mm-hmm. But the funny thing is you can still see through them.
Which, whatever.
What are you going to do your eyes?
Never.
You will. It'll happen. Do you know anybody with their eyes done?
Uh-huh.
Are they blind?
Of course he does.
No.
Of course he knows. Look at him. That's the underbelly of society right there.
So we
All
brought
the tattoos.
We brought back tons of peaches, man. And then when she was done, I'm like, where's the rest of them?
What, you got like 3 cans?
No, there's a lot of jars in there. But
You got 3 jars?
It before it's processed, it looks like it's going to be a lot more. And she cans frequently. I mean,
that's good.
It's a lot of work. Good, like she was in the kitchen fucking all day long.
It's good. It's good to have that.
And she said the key was, like, we could have gotten twice as many peaches, and it wouldn't have taken that much longer to do a lot more peaches. But we bought every peach we could get. Like, when we got to we bought all of the peaches. There's not another single peach at the farmer's market.
Nice. But that's the way you do everything.
Yeah, I mean, I think we got 100 pounds of jalapenos we brought back with us.
Those Amish jalapenos?
They're big ones. They were big. And fucking jalapenos, like, normally you buy a bag of jalapenos, right? And it's like $5. These fucking jalapenos, they were getting like, there were 7 in these little wooden you don't get to keep the basket either. These cool little baskets, and there's like 7 in there for $5.
Wait, you don't keep the basket, so what were you doing? Just dumping?
Yeah, you dump them in
the back of your truck?
In your bag. No, they have bags. we take clothes. We take
grocery bags.
Grocery bags,
yeah. What's new here? What's new with the
garden's huge. I took all of the roller carts out of the greenhouse, and then blew the greenhouse out, tacked all the weed matting back down, reclaimed this whole area over here where all the potatoes were, pulled all of those out of there, all the protein tubs, spiked all of that back down proper, and there's ants, like fire ants, inside those tubs.
Really?
So I got the shit bit out of them. Like, I got bit more on Saturday by ants than probably the rest of my life. I might have some superhero powers.
Maybe.
Something. I'm probably going to get something good from all that.
Or something not good.
And then I took all those carts, and I hadn't put anything in those carts for a couple of years. All through COVID, everything grew all through the winter in there really well. And then when you leave soil untouched like that, it becomes hydrophobic. So when you water it, you'll super soak that bed and it'll just water down, but it doesn't actually absorb in the dirt. It just kind of follows the planter down. So you can put 100 gallons of water in there and it's pissing out the bottom and you assume it's good to go. It's not. It's like a brick. You have to get a handful of this crunchy ass dirt, break it up, and then let water absorb in it. So it takes 30 minutes probably each of those beds. I've reclaimed all those beds. I planted 4 of those last night. I put a ton of jalapenos and strawberries and okra in.
When are you going to have your farmer's market?
I'm not.
Why not?
Because I don't like people.
I know, but you could just get one of the guys dressed up like
everybody here,
like Ronald McDonald out front selling strawberries. It'd be hilarious.
Everybody here in town wants to bitch and complain that there's not a farmer's market, but motherfuckers here in town don't want to pay for farmer's market. They want to, I can get this at Walmart. Oh, well, then why are you here?
Yeah, but it's
you know how it is,
Monsanto
man.
Corn. Do you
Guys,
really want Monsanto corn?
Guys would come in here and they're like, oh, I didn't know this place was here. I'm like, yeah, that's on purpose. And then they're like, how come this belt is $65? I can get one at Walmart. It's the same. It's the same, man. They want to bitch about what they don't have, and they don't fucking have it because they're not willing to pay the price to fucking have it.
Well, there's a lot of poverty here, John.
I got a bunch of, we got a bunch of chickens just hatched out. I got mama chickens that have showed back up with chicks.
How about the duck?
Which duck?
The duck when we were walking down the hill that was sitting on those eggs on the corner. Did she pop?
No, something got those eggs, and I suspect that when I let the big dog out, he ran her off and ate those eggs. But I have another duck that has shown up between some hay bales, and she'll bite the shit out of you. She's in a protected area where all the chicken coops are, so she's sitting on 6 or 7 eggs right now. Those will hatch out any time now.
Have we seen the chupacabra again?
Nope.
No.
I've been looking for them too.
Probably need to put a trail camera down there so you can.
I do. I need to move some cameras around and put some more cameras in. Yeah, that's it, man. We're just fucking building tons and tons of stuff.
I saw the woodland.
Which
there's the 308 rig. There's the
split front,
the fanny pack.
Mm-hmm.
Do you consider that a fanny pack now, or is it a dangler?
So we do a few. We do because originally when we built that, right, we were kayaking, right? So it was a chest pack, and then we evolved that into a fanny pack, chest pack, the FUPA, and then we added the flap so that it'll go on armor, and then we evolved all of our chest rigs and micro rigs so that you can run it under any of our micro rigs. And then we make a product that is actually a fanny pack, which is smaller, and that is just a fanny pack. Does not work as a chest pack, but it runs as a crossbody bag really well. It's smaller, and I built that because I wanted that just for doing abandoned buildings and shit. I can put cameras and some toilet paper and a bunch of batteries and lights and shit in there.
John, are you pooping these abandoned buildings?
You're in some of them for 10, 12 hours.
Pooping in these abandoned buildings, John?
Sometimes in these properties
that's why no one can go in abandoned buildings, because John's ruining it for everybody.
You sometimes get lost in them. When you get in the tunnels branch off, and sometimes you end up in a building and you're like, how do we get out of this? So you got to backtrack sometimes.
Sounds like SOTG.
Well, a lot of these buildings were legitimate, like prisons. There's bars on the windows and shit. Do
you take chicken bouillon cubes with you?
No. Why?
Survival food.
No. We have food with us usually. We could get out. It'd just be loud, and a lot of times.
But they're small. You could keister those and not even know that you have them. I'm just saying, because most of these places, survival situation going on.
Most of these asylums, right?
Yeah,
they're fucking prisons. They were just warehousing crazy motherfuckers.
Yeah, they are prisons. That's true. They have certain levels of prisons.
Yes.
My grandmother had dementia and was in a nice facility in Utah, and she had her own room. And as it got worse, she escaped, and they freaked out because Millie was gone. And
didn't they find her sitting on a?
So this is one of those places where people donate benches, and at the end of the driveway they had a donated bench, so it was not a official bus stop. And so Millie would get naked and walk down. This is the part I don't understand: naked old lady walking down the driveway and sitting on the park bench, and people are like, "We don't know where she went." You would think somebody would have saw the naked old lady anyway. So she'd go down there and sit, and so that was minimum security. And then they moved her into maximum security, and it only took her a month to escape again. and she escaped again, or she disappeared again. And then the orderly, the guy that knew her the most, was like, I know exactly where she's at. I'll go get her right now. And he'd go down there, and he'd be like, Millie, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm just waiting for the bus. When the bus gets here, I'm going to town. But naked again. I don't know why she loved getting naked, but
yeah, the naked thing's weird. But I mean, what do they care? There's no who's she harming? Let her, if she wants to sit on the fucking bench, let her sit on the bench. Why don't they just move the bench out into the fucking courtyard and let her sit there?
They had this happened in Temecula. A lady escaped from one of the facilities in Temecula down by the casino, and they had a trolley bus that was taking people around to the wineries. And she just got on the bus, and they went to like 3 or 4 wineries before they were like, who's this old lady following us around? So they just took her on a little trip, go drink some wine and shit.
But she wasn't naked.
No, she wasn't naked. That would have been a dead giveaway, I think. But in today's society, who knows?
Yeah, there's all kinds of weird shit, man.
Today's society, you might just be like, that lady's just crazy. Get her another bottle of wine.
You should go with us on some of these.
What, to the Arkham
asylums.
Dungeons?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just time and money, John, time and money. I would love to go.
Yeah.
Every time I see you post, I'm like, did you really go? I don't believe. See, here's the thing. When you see John posting about him in some faraway place, don't believe it. This is what I think happens. I think Brandel goes, takes video and pictures, sends them to you and be like, John, this place is really cool. And then you're like, I'm going to post that.
Brandel's scared of the dark.
Like I went to that place.
Because
you don't ever leave the compound.
Brandel is scared of the dark.
Are you scared of the dark?
He doesn't go underground. All of these crazy old places, they're all connected by tunnels.
You don't go underground?
I go in caves.
Well, what would be the difference between an asylum tunnel and a cave?
It's man-made.
Yeah, apparently coal mines are super dangerous. They have something called dead air in there.
Yes.
And it sits low, right? So it always kills the second guy. The first guy walks through it, stirs it up. The second guy breathes it, and it kills your friend with you.
Yeah.
That's why I'm always in the lead.
Don't they have
because you know that you're going to kill your friend? That's kind of rough.
Don't they have can't we get like a little box that just fucking beeps and shit like you have for confined space rescue?
This is what you do. You get a stick that attaches to the front of your helmet that has a little bird cage in it, and you put
For the canary?
a canary in there.
I bought
then
one
you'll
of
know.
those. I bought a canary cage.
And then you just hold the canary out in front of you as you're walking through the... How you doing, Tweety? Everything good? Everything good? And then you'll be fine. That's all you need is a canary. That's how they did it in the old days. Back when your dad was coal mining.
I bought a coal mine canary cage. I have it upstairs.
Well, then that's how we do it. Except John would have his canary would be fake. It'd be a stuffed canary. All right, Randall, how's that canary doing? Looking good. Looking good. That'd be pretty funny. We should do a video where we go into a coal mine with a stuffed canary.
I say we take the tunnel that goes to the operational hospital and we just show up in the hospital where they're still at.
I wonder if you could even get in it.
Surprise, guys.
I wonder if you could even get in it.
Oh.
Because there's a lot of times where weird shit like that, like weird, for example, the hospital had a wing that had a crematorium, and then there would be a tunnel that would take the bodies to the crematorium, and then the crematorium got closed, and the wing of the hospital got changed into something else, so they boarded up the thing so that the people who are working there now don't even know that there's a fucking tunnel.
So in a lot of them, you see they've like bricked over.
Yeah.
Right? And you could break that out with a fucking sledgehammer.
I
But a
wouldn't.
lot of them just have a sheet of plywood.
I would just get a pitchfork, and when I knew people were in that room, I would just scrape the pitchfork on the wall.
We were in the morgue in the last one. They held, I think it was 6 bodies. There's 3 here and 3 here, and the trays.
Did you climb
in? No, but the dudes that were there climbed in there. The dudes that were there right before us, and they climbed in there, and he actually fell asleep for about 30 minutes.
Wait a minute. When you're going to these abandoned and crazy places, are you like standing in line because there's a bunch of other people there that are going through the abandoned crazy? You're like,
no, we've seen people in a couple places we've gone.
Yeah.
But no, we typically don't see, like, we haven't run into any like transients either. Like you see, like we were in, there's a grain silo. There's a famous grain silo in Nashville. It's got the old man painted on it. Mm-hmm. When you walk in, there's a couple levels in there that have like metal stairs like we have in the building. And you find homeless nests. There's like all these hobo trinkets that they've got all around there. And you're like, what was he doing with this shit, right? He's just probably out for the day.
Maybe.
Gathering other shit. But when you get up to the 3rd level, there's just a metal ladder that's just built into the wall. And as we were going in, there's these 2 kids there. I'm like, oh, they're going in there to fuck or smoke weed or whatever. And I'm like, are you going all the way up to the top? And they're like, yep. And I watched them. They went up there. And I started going up there, and I'm like, fuck this. Like, those 2 skinny little 100-pound kids just went up there. This rung's a little loose. This motherfucker, half of this building's gone. So, and I had Amanda with me, so I'm like, yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, you forgot the Boondock Saints rule.
What's that one?
Always bring a rope.
Yeah.
Gotta always bring a rope.
Yeah, I have 550 cord with me. I don't usually have rope.
Ooh, that'd be a rough climb, 550 cord.
My backpack is getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. You get limited to the thing you can do if you don't have the equipment you want. Right?
Well, I have a 30-foot extension ladder, expandable ladder. They always, because the first floor is always welded shut, but there's no windows on the second floor.
Oh man,
ever.
if you're ever
tunnels, you can always get anywhere from tunnels.
Should I say that out loud?
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say it out loud.
You can.
So there was a period in my Marine Corps career where it was about breaking into buildings, and honestly it didn't matter.
They have whole classes on it.
Yeah, it didn't matter what building. It didn't matter what building we were talking about. I used to have this guy. Chad Carlson, who he was a bodybuilder at the time, and
got to feed the machine.
Yeah, got to feed the machine all the time. And I would say scrap the door, Chad. So if we had to get into a building and we couldn't get into it, Chad would scrap the door. been very rare. It was very rare that we had to scrap the door, and usually
What does scrap the door mean?
you could pull the door off. And usually,
How would he do that?
oh, with the hooligan tool and stuff like that.
Pull the whole frame out.
Yeah, and usually it was because we were being lazy. Like I knew I could get the painter pole, use the caving ladder, get on the roof, and then I could almost 100%. There's either going to be a window open, there's going to be an upstairs access that's open. The government is notorious for not locking its doors. So there's usually always a way into a building, especially the bigger the building is, there's probably 50 entry points. And so very rarely did we have to scrap the door. It was usually, and a lot of times it would be doors on the ground floor. You just walk, boop, oh, hey, welcome home, and just walk right in. So it's very rare that you have to scrap a door. Even when there's like when they do secure a building for long term, where they're welding doors shut and shit like that, fucking upstairs windows are always open.
There's not even windows in most.
Yeah, they're always open. There's always a way. There is always a way into a building.
So I'm always surprised how they've put the wrong doors facing the outside. Right, the door closes, but they've put the rounded part of that pin, that bolt that goes in there, outward facing. So you can easily, you don't even have to use anything like a Slim Jim or something, you can get it in there and then you just bump it and push it back from the inside. But I'm always surprised when there's no guard on there and you can literally just take your knife and just push that nose back in there and the door's fucking wide open. And they have the wrong fucking door. They have an interior door facing outward.
A lot of times it's
they'll be hardened doors, but you can literally you could pick up a twig and open the fucking door with it.
A lot of times with those kind of things, it's perception, right? It's just the perception of security. That as long as there's good perception of security, then I don't have to worry about some dude tunneling underneath and getting inside or whatever, because it's the perception, right? We're as humans, we're conditioned to follow rules, and sometimes all you have to do is put up a sign that says "Stay out."
Right.
And then, it takes those first hooligan kids to cut a hole in the fence to sneak on board. And then after that, it's game on. Everybody's going in there and checking it out.
We were at a big hospital, I don't know, 6 months ago probably. And they had chain link all over the place and cameras and shit. Nobody's monitoring those fucking cameras on an abandoned hospital. Maybe there's a motion sensor someplace and then somebody looks at the camera. But the chain link fence had been cut, and then they just zip tied it back.
Yeah. That's a classic.
So it looked
classic
closed,
abandoned building.
but it's not. Or you can just take the chain link from the pole and just slide it back like a fucking curtain.
Yeah, that's a classic. Zip tie it closed. Yep. Yeah, most buildings. I mean, even when you see cameras. That's for after the fact. The reality is most camera systems are not actively being viewed because we don't want to pay somebody to just sit in front of a monitor, especially when it's something that is not bringing any financial gain.
On an abandoned building. We were at an abandoned building Saturday. I think I sent you Saturday we were there. And we rolled up to it. And it was weird. It had a big concrete staircase that went down that went nowhere. It just like dead ended at a wall. It's like they had built another building there or something. And they had a bunch of these pod cameras there. And it's a dome outward facing, and it had a security company with a brand new sign and shit. And there was some broken glass. Somebody had broken some glass, and then a company came in and put up plywood over all the windows. Most of the windows appeared to still be intact. But they had the doors, they had the wrong fucking doors on the thing. So anybody could open this thing up. But their camera systems, you knew they weren't rotating cameras and they couldn't control them because they had two of them side by side, which tells me one pans this way, one's focused this way, one's focused this way. So they're not remote control cameras. There wasn't anything.
It's usually a camera system like that in that aspect. It's always after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So when they go there next month, they're like, fucking who broke all these windows, or Who stole the fucking doors off the building? Then they're going to get on the thing and they're going to be like, oh, there they are. Yep, that's them. You know, it's not, the police aren't rolling out to an abandoned building because Brandel and his friends are breaking windows.
Yeah, and I mean, if they're breaking windows, it's typically it's just asshole kids. But you'll get transients in there that'll light fires and the thing will fucking burn down or any number of things. But a lot of it's just fucking just vandalism, people being assholes.
Well, and, you know, urban exploration is at an all-time high.
Yes.
And it becomes an issue of ownership, meaning if John does climb up that ladder and falls, the first thing John's going to do is lawyer up and sue them because he had access to this deadly ladder. And that's why those cameras are up there. That's why people pay for security on shit that is fucking, because they're so afraid they're going to get sued.
Which is insane. Like if you break into a place, you shouldn't, like if I get injured someplace, I am not suing fucking anyone. If I'm someplace you're not going to hear about it.
No, I know. That's it. But unfortunately, we've created a ambulance chasing society where when someone jumps over your wall and gets attacked by your dog, they sue you because you have a fucking
what does the world become
dog.
Where somebody breaks into your house, you smoke that motherfucker, and then the family can sue you even though it was justifiable?
It happens all the time.
Should not even be a fucking thing.
Happens all the time.
Yep,
because
most of those to keep that court system going.
Well, it's I don't necessarily think it's to keep the court system going. It's because there are a bunch of unscrupulous lawyers out there that understand that a lot of these things get settled out of court. And so all I have to do is hit you with a frivolous lawsuit. So I hit SOE with a frivolous lawsuit. Your board of directors looks at it and go, they're suing for $10,000. And you're like, fuck it, we're going to court. And your lawyer's like, it's going to cost you $35,000 to fight this stupid thing in court. So you're like, give them the $10,000.
Yep.
We don't have time to fuck around with this. And that's the problem. The problem is that happens so much that you have a whole class of attorneys out there that's all they do is ambulance chase, or, you know, like the big thing in California is handicap accessible. It's just because they're trying to get paid.
Yeah, shouldn't be a thing.
It shouldn't even be a thing.
Should not be a thing. Did you see California? Wasn't California the fourth biggest country gross domestic product, basically?
I think it was, but it's not anymore.
Now everybody's pulled out. All these companies are pulling out. No, it's like seventh or something. Germany's number 4 now. California was bigger gross domestic product than Germany.
You can't kill all your stuff and then expect to be like, that's all they do is they legislate against big business. They legislate against farming. They legislate against anybody using water. California is turning into the fucking shit. It's gonna pretty soon. Fucking Tijuana is gonna be like, hey, you guys need some aid. You need us to send you some food because Mexico or California is just turning into a shithole.
Dude, I just saw some video from San Diego, and Tijuana looks fucking nicer than fucking this shit does.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Tent city. There's a bunch of video of dudes living in tents and shanty towns. And you can see at night that they've got widescreen TVs in their shit. They got projectors and they got widescreen TVs in their fucking tents.
Wouldn't surprise me.
They're standing there playing video games and shit.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me because they've created a financial reward system in California for being homeless.
And maybe some of it's not a financial reward system, right? Maybe things are so fucked up in the economy. And they just keep lying to people that people really are losing their houses and are living,
well, again,
different ways. You're not allowed to even call them homeless anymore.
No, they're homeless. Sorry,
unhoused neighbors is what they want.
Your unhoused neighbors are homeless people. No, I don't. Just because you've allowed them to establish military camps in your neighborhood doesn't make them unhoused. They're homeless. And they're homeless because you have allowed the governor of your state and your legislator, your weak Democratic legislator, to ruin the state of California. Ruin it. Sorry.
Are they going after Biden and they're going to push Newsom as the...
No, they're not fucking going after Biden. They're not going to go after Biden. They don't. Here's the thing. while Newsom is a puppet, like Newsom has fucking all 10 fingers up his asshole and he is a puppet. He is not the beautiful puppet that Biden is, right? The dudes pulling the strings for Biden, they're like, oh man, well, I've got 10 fingers and 10 toes in this guy and he does whatever we want. Again, Newsom is a fucking puppet, but not the puppet that Biden is. That's why he's not even, because again, Gavin can't even run for president.
How come?
He can't run for president because the Democratic Party is they're not doing any of that. There's when JFK says he's running for president, they're not doing debates, they're not doing nothing, and he's on the Democratic ticket. So who's going to see it outside of being on Joe Rogan?
Can't he just flip?
And be a Republican? No.
Or independent?
I mean, he could be independent, but the problem with independence, I know, I get it, guys. Yeah. You want a third party, 1%. But it does no good. It does no fucking good. So unless real, hardworking, tax-paying Democrats, I know you guys still have to be out there somewhere, unless they
they're Republicans now.
Unless they go punch the DNC in the Adam's apple and say, hey, we want debates. We want to pick who the next president is going to be instead of you motherfuckers manipulating the system. Joe Biden is the nominee. So unless Joe Biden has a heart attack and dies,
who are they going to run as Republican?
Trump.
You don't think they're going to put him in prison?
No. Not at all. They don't
sure are. Yeah, I don't think
they don't have anything to put him in prison for. They don't have anything to put him in prison for. And here's the dangerous part. The dangerous part is if they do, what happens?
What happens?
I don't know. You might make January 6th look like a fucking tea party. Because you have the current president of the United States using the full weight of the Department of Justice to dethrone the top contender for the Republican Party. That's Banana Republic.
Do we know how many were arrested from January 6th?
I don't know.
Do we know how many are still in custody?
There's
January
a lot
6th?
still in custody.
Right. Do you know they're still arresting people from January 6th?
They're
still going and knocking on people's
doors. Because the FBI is a failed organization, and the Department of Justice is also a pretty failed organization. You have people committing real crimes. Mind you,
Hunter Biden.
Mind you, the Democratic Party, the left, and the Democratic Party actually took a bomb in there and blew it up. And those people actually work for Joe Biden now. So
I say that, and people are like, "No, they didn't."
Yeah, 100%. Go ahead and look it up, you retards.
Clinton pardoned her.
Yes. Actual bomb,
like C4 bomb. A bunch of C4 blew the shit out of the Capitol building. Like, there's photos of it. You can even see it on Google. Even still has it.
So I don't want to hear about January 6th. Bunch of dudes with American flags. Oh, this is the worst day since Pearl Harbor. You're retarded.
And they're like, well, somebody was shot. Yeah. Your cop shot her.
A protester was killed. That's the only person who was killed on January 6th.
Female Air Force officer.
Yes. Anyways, I don't want to get into that because that's just retarded. Plus,
insurrections usually have guns, guys.
Yeah, your Capitol Police were opening the gates and escorting the people through the building. Mr. Buffalo Bob there, he had a police escort the entire time he was in there. Hence the reason why they had to pull him out of jail. And the Democrats knew that he had not committed a crime, and yet they still put him in jail.
They wouldn't show the footage. There's over 120,000 hours of footage.
It's a little bit maddening, anyways.
And they still won't show it.
I don't want to talk about how you have a party in this country who is
my point to that is
fucking Sandinista guerrillas. They're gonna
if they put Trump in jail.
Yes.
Nobody's gonna do shit about it.
I don't know. I don't know if it, because again, he's not really. I guess he's running for president, but like even DeSantis is running for president, but Trump's numbers still crush DeSantis. Okay, so
What's DeSantis have? 7%?
I don't know what he has.
13%? Trump has 58%.
But DeSantis, hear me now. Don't do it. There is no outside of I know. You need to go to Washington D.C. so you can fleece the taxpayers because that's what all the politicians do. You are king. You are king in Florida. Why would you give that up to be a stooge in Washington? Because the Democrats aren't going to allow you to do shit.
There's a ton of footage out there of everybody's like, DeSantis did such a great job during COVID. There's a bunch of video of he's like, we're locking you down. If we catch you moving, we're going to arrest you.
Well, he did
early on.
Yeah, he did early on, which can be acceptable. But once I will say this, the good thing about DeSantis and Florida doesn't necessarily mean it had anything to do with DeSantis, is once his people, so once whatever their Surgeon General is, once their people came out and said, hey, man, here's the numbers. All this shit is bullshit. He was like, okay, good. We're not doing that shit anymore. Right? And so that's the good thing, is at least he listened to his real experts versus our bought and paid for experts at the federal level.
I don't think any of these guys want to really be president. They just want that super PAC money.
You keep the super PAC money, John. See, we could make a super PAC here at SOE. We could be super PAC we could start a super PAC for Patriots, for Bald Eagles, and all things apple pie. And all we have to do is collect money and then do some apple pie, Bald Eagle commercials. Brandel could do them.
I approve this message.
And it doesn't. Here's the thing about a super PAC. I don't need Donald Trump to approve the message. I don't need DeSantis to approve the message. I just put the message out there. I put my message out there and I say, whatever I want to say about bald eagles and apple pie. And then when the election is over, win, lose, or draw, whatever money is left in the super PAC, it's our money.
Did you see this United Nations shit? I heard Bear talking about this morning. Let me find it here.
Wait, you find it. I'm gonna go outside.
All right, I got it.
Feed the peaches. One of our local convenience stores was robbed, and my friend was going into said convenience store at like 3:00 in the morning because he was flying in, and it was early, and he went in with a cop at the same time.
What fucking stores do you have open at 3 a.m. over there?
A local convenience store, and so
like dollar store or something.
No,
Walmart.
No, where do you buy your pizza at? Casey's.
Oh, gas station.
So local convenience store. So he goes in there, and the cop was talking. He's like, "I see you're from out of town," and he's like, "Yeah, I'm from out of town. I'm blah blah blah." He's talking to him, and he's like, "Oh, okay." And John's like, "Why are you profiling? Yeah, why are you profiling me?" He's like, because assholes that are from out of town hit these places in the wee hours of the morning because it's on the way, right? So they pull in to get some quick cash, and then they're on the way. And John's like, are you going to catch those guys? He's like, nah, we'll never see them again. It's just quick cash. They just hit the local convenience store and then move on.
What's really in those at this point in time? Like $20? I mean, aren't they doing night drops and shit?
No idea.
And I'll bet cash is so few and far between.
No idea.
So I go to Casey's the other day. I really go to Casey's so that I can take pictures of slices of pizza and send them to Brandel. I don't actually eat the pizza. There's 3 pieces right there behind Brandel. He brought them to me. So, did you smell it? You didn't know?
I didn't even smell it.
It's just coincidence that you brought that up, huh?
Yeah, coincidence.
So, I give him, how much is that shit? It's like $5 a fucking slice of pizza.
It is expensive.
And I'll hand the kid, I bought 3 pieces of pizza the other day, and I hand him a 20. It's a little less, right? So he has to give me change. And I'm like, keep the change. It's going to take him like 3 minutes to count out the $1.80. I'm like, just keep. He's like, you don't want your $1.80? I'm like, no, you can have it. Put it in your pocket. And he's like, oh my God, thank you. And it's the same conversation every time. They are so unaccustomed to seeing cash. Everybody just, and you don't even have to like fucking slide your card anymore. You can just tap it.
Yuck. I'm not down with that. I think it should all be coins. You just have to count them out. It should be hard.
Fuck, man. These kids can't count them. Do you remember for a while there when they would, the register would just shit out the proper amount of change because motherfuckers couldn't count change? They can't count change.
So you're telling me your Casey's doesn't have one of those change clicker outers?
No.
Huh. Weird. The thing I see lately is the is how much failure rate they're having with the technology that they're using.
So I do notice, like when we went to Walmart to buy pectin, right, for making jelly, while we were in Jackson, and that's a big Walmart. So the aisle, like they've got the big giant, everything's self-checkout. There might be a register or 2 registers open. There used to be, I'll bet they had fucking 30 registers in that place. It's a big Walmart. But that first section where you go self-checkout, there's probably 12 registers in there. Only 2 of them motherfuckers. Those things are always broken. Always down. What technology are you talking about not working?
I'm talking about it like card readers and, the gas pumps out where I'm at there's always a fucking gas pump issue.
So I suspect they're getting worn out.
Yep.
And the parts aren't there. Like the electric company here, right? We have an influx of people moving in here. They moved in, a couple years ago, big, money when they sold their houses over value, came out here, bought 100-acre lots. And they're like, right on, build my McMansion.
Yeah.
And the contractors are like, right on, 3 to 4 years. So now it's coming time to where they're able to build these things. The electric companies are going around to properties to pull meters off of properties that aren't being used because they don't have any of this. Like they don't have
meters.
They don't have the transformers to put up on the fucking poles to energize these properties. Like all kinds of shit going on.
I'd be mad as hell if you brought me an old ass trailer park transformer to dust the cobwebs off and put on my new McMansion.
But that's what's happening. We had one out here that was actually pissing. It like.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. In
it
the
was
back.
Yeah. And that's what's happening. A lot of places, a lot of these new builds, they're building all these new neighborhoods and shit. Like just drive into Nashville. Fucking Nashville gets a mile this way every time I drive there, and they don't have fucking power. They can't move people in them because they don't have transformers and shit for them.
Well, if all you liberals would stay in your states when you're having COVID problems instead of moving here.
It's a trip, man. You guys left California because of the crazy shit. And then you wonder why these fucking places aren't like California. You left California for a reason.
It's the problem. It's the problem, the delusion they have in their head that they're like, it's not like I have a really good friend. His wife is she's a Democrat. And
a real one?
A real one. And votes that line, but doesn't understand that she is nowhere. Like if they had a town meeting where all the Democrats had to show up, she would immediately go, I am not a Democrat anymore. I'm not.
If she saw the Kool-Aid.
If she saw it, well, if she saw what the party has turned into, if she saw what the party was turned into, she'd be like, nope, no way. Is that me?
And he's not a Democrat?
No.
Doesn't it burn him when he sticks his dick in her?
No. That's not how it works.
Pretty sure it works that way.
That's not how it works.
So the poster boy for the Democrats is a girl that thinks she's a boy who has cut her hair with scissors without using a mirror. You see it all over the place. They have one that works at the Tractor Supply in Paris. When you walk in there, she's wearing a mask. Her mask is dirty. It's a cloth mask that maybe her grandma made for her, and it's very stained.
It doesn't work, guys.
And it looks like she literally cut her hair with scissors.
Okay.
As short as she could get it without using a mirror. Like, stop cutting your own hair.
Well, I mean, in the real world, that would be a sign of mental illness, and somebody would try and help her instead of allowing her to live in that mental illness.
Yes.
To where she will one day commit suicide or harm other people because
instead
they
we
don't
incentivize her and give her, and she has some children. And
yep. Oh, it's a mad world. Hopefully one day we'll go back to the center instead of all this far left, far right.
Not without violence.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe
No,
maybe a
it's-
giant. Maybe Congress just needs to have a giant pillow fight.
What about the Nephilim?
What about the Nephilims?
You know they're in the DUMBs,
In the dumps?
the deep underground military bases. The
Oh.
DUMBs.
The dumbs.
There's a bunch of.
I thought they were all along the Euphrates River that was drying up.
Well, that's something different. That's the horsemen.
I thought that was all there down there.
Have you
howling.
seen the Euphrates River? Is it really drying up? Like,
I mean, okay. Here's the problem. The problem
is it that angle they showed you?
Well, no. Here's the problem. The problem is you have a bunch of morons out there in this world that feel like they have to. They feel like they have to be like climate change. Climate change. Did you see that the Euphrates River is drying up? Climate change. Okay, the Euphrates River is not drying up because of climate change. The Euphrates River is drying up because everybody's building dams. So Ethiopia, all these countries are building super dams. And again, if you live downstream of a dam, hey, guess what? You're going to get less water because we're filling up this huge swimming pool.
And then you're going to get way too much water.
Yeah.
Isn't that fucking mega dam in China fucking collapsing?
I don't know if it is
Didn't
or
they
not.
just have a major dam in Ukraine fucking got blowed up or something?
Yeah, there was some blowed up stuff going on, but
Ukraine blew up their own dam.
it's quite possible. Who knows? I mean, the problem is you have the entire world is now so propaganda based, with our own government feeding propaganda, everybody lying about everything. You just don't know if it's true or not anyways.
Did you see the footage going around? There was a drag show happening. I don't remember what state it was. This is in the last couple of weeks. Some drag show happening. And there's people out front protesting. And there's normal, people walking by. And the people protesting say there are children in here right now in this drag show. And some man walking his dog's like, there's no kids in there. And they're like, there's 6 kids in there. There's even an infant in there right now. And they have this fucking idea that's not happening. Did you see
New York City?
Go ahead and tell. I think I'm about to say that.
New York City, where they were chanting, "We're coming for your children."
Okay, so I did see that. We're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children.
Yeah.
I did see that. Tim Pool had a big piece on it. Tim Pool actually had a person on the ground that recorded that footage that you saw. That was one of his reporters. Did you see? There are there's some guys dressed up as women. There's 6 or 7 of them in a home.
Yeah, one of them had a heart attack.
One of them has a heart attack. EMS comes out and they find 6 children between the ages of 3 and 13.
I don't know.
And they have them in a backlocked room apparently. And this comes out and you don't hear shit about it.
Of course not.
It's all over TikTok. It's on our social media
It's
channels.
not the agenda that they can't put. They can't let people know the truth.
Did you see the
I mean, there's actually a I believe it's lesbians who are doing it. A lesbian organization that's doing an anti-grooming, like they're fighting for I guess I don't know if they're fighting for laws or something to stop the grooming of children.
They're going to have to.
Yeah, they have to save the day
because they've been grouped. They didn't voluntarily say, "Hey, throw this other bullshit on the LGBTQ thing," right? What is it? It's lesbian, bi, trans, and gay. Is that what it was?
Whatever.
I don't think they're even for the trans shit, but whatever. But they're the pedophile shit. There is a fucking pedophile flag.
Yeah.
And that is that blue, pink flag that you're seeing pretty frequently in media anyways right now. That is not the gay pride flag. And the gay folks, I think, they're like, cut that off. And really, if you had a conversation with them, you would find that they probably think the same things that most Americans think.
I would say that's my fear. That's my fear for that community is
night along knives.
You're gonna allow that pedophile grooming.
I don't think they're even allowing it. I think mainstream media is fucking clumping it.
If they came out tomorrow and were like, "Stop this shit," it would stop. They're going to allow that. The problem is they're going to allow that pedophile grooming type iceberg sink the entire ship, and everybody dies.
Tim Pool had some liberal on, props to her for coming on the show, right? They
Yeah.
won't. They'll I'll debate you this, that, and he's
Yeah,
like, okay,
they-
come on,
they
and they
won't.
never do. So this chick comes on, and she's like, yes, we teach 11-year-olds how to use Tinder, how to use fucking Grindr and all these shit. You're teaching children how to use sex hookup sites and normalizing that shit. Along with that video, I don't know if it was the same location. I think it was that same footage. There's a dude, a big fat dude out there in tighty whities fucking twerking and shaking his fucking ass in front of kids. The crazier shit is, who the fuck takes their kids to this shit? Would you and I have ever been at a fucking parade
Nope.
where that was happening? Especially for that, like on Gay Pride Day, right?
Nope.
That's not, like, you want to be gay, no problem. Thank your mom and dad. Like, where the fuck did you come from, right? If you want to do that, whatever. But to draw kids into that shit, and I don't think that's what most of them are. At least, and definitely not the women, right? You don't hear about pedophile women. You hear about pedophile men.
Yeah, that's the tragedy. Of it.
So I
don't want to say it's tragedy because it's not lesbians, but
we had Bear on yesterday. Bear and Nicole and myself did it, and he runs Caleb House. They have a sex trafficking restoration, right? So they not only do they rescue kids, what do we do with the kids afterwards? How do we fucking bring them back into society, make them whole? Because it's going to be a lifetime of treatment, right? So they've started Caleb House, and currently they have 60 people. I believe he said 60. They have a child as young as 1 right now that they have custody of. He said Homeland Security for the entire fucking United States
yes,
only has 600 beds. 38,000 children. I think my number's low. 38,000 children a month go missing, abducted in the United States. Homeland Security, when these kids are recovered, there's under 600 beds in the entirety of the United States, and there's nothing in the middle of the United States. They're only on the fucking coastal cities. That's all. That's it. So
it's because the government.
they're in on it. They recover these kids. Hold on. They recover these kids, right? And where do they put them? They fucking stick them right back in foster homes. Foster home. More power to you. I know there's some people out there doing the fucking Lord's work, right? But a lot of them are just in it because it's fucking
Financially rewarding.
yes. A bunch of kids. If you had a bunch of kids, right? You go and you have 6 kids, and you live in a 2-bedroom house. Child Protective Services will be at your house because those kids don't have their own fucking bedrooms, right? You can keep 2 kids until it's a boy and a girl and they're over 10, whatever the fuck it is, right? I'm sure it's different in different states. Child Protective Services be right the fuck out there. But they'll take these fucking foster kids and they'll fucking stack them deep like fucking cordwood in these fucking houses, and they get $1,000 a month. I happen to know, and I don't know everywhere, but I know that we have had some people who were getting that kind of money for fucking kids, just our employees, right? So there's some silly shit going on, but they have recovered these children, and I've seen it on Sean Ryan's show. I know Sean Whalen was fucking involved with a dude that recovered. They recovered a bunch of kids. They recovered some fucking white kids out of fucking Africa, some Mormon kids that had gone missing. And they fucking snatched those kids back out of fucking Africa. And I've seen every one of these dudes say this. We have recovered the same fucking children multiple times. And Bear said the same thing. These kids go into the system, and then these motherfuckers sell them back into the fucking system when they're fucking coming from the.
We assume when somebody says government, like that it's a good thing. Like, when we were talking about any government program, there's nothing that the government does that they do well. Nothing. There's nothing. Like, I guarantee you, even if you looked at the toilet paper contract that the government gets, you're going to be like, what the fuck? There's nothing they do well.
Yeah, wasn't it $600 hammers and $400 toilet seats?
There's nothing that the government does well. And the thing that most people don't understand is when you take something small and then you try and make it big, especially social programs, they get wrecked because you don't have the same type of focus. And so when you're talking about kids, is now at the border, children are showing up with names on them. So Jose Gonzalez with a phone number, and then your federal government calls that phone number and says, hey, we believe this child here belongs to you. And that person goes, yes, that child belongs to me. And we just ship that child off to that person. No background check, no confirmation of a family member, nothing. Just ship them off. And they're doing that to thousands of kids every day.
So this says right here, just the first query I have right here. Every 40 seconds, a child goes missing or is abducted in the United States. Approximately 840,000 children are reported missing each year, and the FBI estimates that between 85 and 90% of these are children. Now, those are the kids that get reported. You also have these fucking baby farms. You have people that have abducted women, and they are breeding children, and they are using these children. So these, you have it's said that there are actually millions of people in the United States who have never fucking gotten a Social Security card. Like, they're not even on the radar. They are just traded as commodities.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows?
Who knows? Unless we're going to get in the fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, we start a super PAC, and then we use super PAC money to go find lost children. But when you have the federal government trading children at the rate that they're trading at the international border, drop in the bucket. Drop in the bucket. You think about all these organizations who, I went and rescued 4 kids in Africa. Drop in the bucket. There's that same day.
These are guys we know.
Yeah, I know.
Right? This isn't just somebody saying this. We know these guys.
Even those guys, even those guys at that level, it's such a drop in the bucket. I don't know how long they're going to be able to do it and not just be fucking burnt out. It's like like
Tony Robbins talked about this,
Mm-hmm.
right? He was part of that crew over there that Sean was involved in. And he put $7 million into that out of his pocket right there. Like, that day, wrote a fucking check for that. Like, it's just insane that if we caught wind of this and went and did that and rescued kids, right, they would hammer us like we're fucking criminals for rescuing these children. And then what do we do with the fucking kids once we have them? Who do we fucking give them to?
You have to create it. You have to create its own own structure.
That's what Bear's doing. That's what
you have
Caleb
to create your
House
own
is.
structure. But then again, the minute you start creating that type of structure, you're going to be under the full weight and scrutiny of the federal government. And if that, again, does the federal government care that he has? Does the federal government care that he is trying to help 60 children? Probably not. But if it becomes a point where it's actually successful and it becomes big, then you're encroaching on the federal government's territory, and the full weight of the federal government will come down on you because you didn't have enough pillows or.
So he brought this up, right? So people were like, he said, you guys are the economic engine of this, right? We operate solely off of your donations. And people said, well, what about this grant and this grant? He goes, we can't take any federal grant money, because if we take any federal grant money and we have some kid that thinks he's a girl, we have to now house him with girls automatically if you take any federal grant money, right? So now we have this boy who has been abused all his life, says he's a girl, we put him with girls. Do you think he's not going to abuse all these girls?
Correct. Yeah.
He said the system is set up so that it's to break your will from wanting to do anything right. It is set up against you. It is set up for the criminal element.
Or it's set up for complete government control of the type of operations you're talking about.
Yes.
Right.
So they can hide their fucking operations.
Well, I mean, it's just complete. It's set up for complete government control, because once anything becomes financially viable, the federal government wants their piece of that financial viability. If for some reason, sex trafficking or trafficking children could be monetized. Now, I get it. It is monetized. It's a billion-dollar business. It's a huge business in this country. But if it could be monetized for the rescue side of the house, meaning if, I don't know, let's say every billionaire on the planet was like, hey, we're going to start a fund that has $100 trillion in it for children to be rescued, then the FBI would start rescuing children.
Didn't Trump do a bunch of that? I thought there was a ton of kids recovered during Trump.
Maybe.
They were hitting up all these fucking, because the operations are, they come into these small towns and stuff where you have abandoned hotels and shit.
Yeah.
And they run operations out of there. I found it interesting to hear, I don't remember where I heard this from, but the Amish are a very big customer of those operations.
I don't know.
No,
I don't know.
So
I've never heard that.
what about what's going on with not the bump stock, what's the brace? What's up with is that dead in the water? Is it not dead?
Well, it's, as far as our representatives go, it's dead. I mean, as far as representation of the people, it's dead. But it's going to make its way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to tell the ATF to stick it up their ass. Because again, there's already precedent. So the problem is there's already precedent. And because the ATF is the one who set the precedent, they don't have a leg to stand on. Now, who knows what happens, because you have the left going after all the Supreme Court justices. So maybe they give the Dems a win. They just gave the Dems a huge win with redistricting, but that's a whole nother story.
Well, they had the head of the ATF in there, and Congress is grilling him, right? And it sounds great, but his answer to everything was, "I was ordered by the White House to do this."
Well, the other thing too is they have the head of the ATF in there explaining to Congress about the pistol brace, and he doesn't even know the law. Like he doesn't even know. Like he's like, if you just take it off and put it over here, it's perfectly legal. But that's not how your law is written.
The stock can't have any positions in it, I thought, or something like that. The buffer tube has to be different or something.
Okay, the problem is that's hearsay. That's, again, because the ATF has made it as fucking gray and malleable and mushy as possible, and not a real, well, first off, hey, ATF, you can't make laws. But because they've made it so mushy and malleable, it puts it in their favor. But also because they've made it so mushy and malleable, everybody in the civilian world is interpreting what the law says. Again, it's not a law. They're interpreting what the ATF is saying. So because everybody's interpreting, when you hear somebody go, "Oh, you can't have stock positions on your buffer tube," that's interpretation. That's not. First off, no one has been arrested for a bump stock yet. Okay, so when people
for a bump stock,
for a brace. No one's been arrested for a brace yet.
Anybody been arrested for a bump stock yet?
No, because that got thrown out.
It did.
Yeah, they lost the bump stock.
So bump stocks are back in play?
They're back in play, but I don't know if anybody's manufacturing.
They basically put the company out.
So you don't have any real case precedent. So when somebody says you can't have this, you can't do that, they don't know what they're talking about, because no one has gone to court for it. Because when you say all you have to do is take when they say register it, destroy it, take the brace off, if all you have to do is take the brace off, then that means I can have any buffer tube on there I want. I don't have to change the buffer tube. In theory, right? Because that's how they spelled out the rule. But the rule is so gray and malleable that we're going to have to wait till the courts. Somebody's going to have to get arrested for it.
What about all these IRS agents raiding this gun dealers in Montana? Idaho, Montana?
Yeah, I don't know.
So there was over 20 of them, and like 2 were ATF guys, and the others were all IRS agents.
The problem and
then they came in and took all the fucking 4473 dross forms. Those are not supposed to leave the dealer, right?
Well, until he is closed. So I'm going to assume that he had his FFL revoked. And when your FFL revoked, all your dross paper, all that stuff gets shipped to the ATF anyways.
So I've seen a lot of people saying that they were coming in, videoing or taking pictures of all of those, digitizing them, and then they have now put them in a compilation. Like I guess that even came out in court. I heard a couple of years ago. They can just toggle it so that they can data mine it.
If anybody out there feels that they don't have a gun database, they do. Is it perfect? No, it's not perfect. But I promise you, if you have more, let's just say this, if you have bought more than 3 guns in your lifetime, they know you have the guns. They just know.
They know you have guns even if you have unregistered guns, right? If you're buying ammunition somewhere, your credit card and your debit card are fucking reporting that you're buying that shit.
Now they are reporting, but meaning, let's say you were 10 years ago or whatever. Yeah, they probably didn't know what you were doing 10 years ago. But now, anything you do that's firearm related, it's reportable up. So, yes, they know that you're buying 9mm. They know that you're buying, 308.
So I noticed the other day, toiletry bags.
Okay.
My website, toiletry bags. Remember when we did that video and we shot your section of the video and you had all the bullets in the toiletry bags? You had 45, 9mm, 223. 50 cal. You had like 38 50 cal rounds.
Did that get flagged?
My website, while I embed the YouTube video in there, it's a black screen that says it's adult content. That's not YouTube that did that. That's my fucking website hosting did that and flagged that. You can still click it. It takes you off. It just won't play on my website. You click it and it takes you to YouTube and then you can watch the video.
Well, I mean, I guess it is adult content.
It's just the fact
you can't buy a gun unless you're an adult.
They're doing that shit.
I know it's retarded, but here's the biggest thorn in BlackRock and World Health Organization. The biggest thorn in the side of a one world government is, unfortunately, America guns. That's it. That's the biggest
China,
side of the thorn.
Everybody in the UN says the biggest threat to humanity is the United States Second Amendment.
Yeah, and if they're saying that, guys, you need to go. If they're saying that, you need to go buy a gun.
You should probably get a bunch of them.
Well, you don't need a bunch. 3, right? Get you a pistol, an AR, and a shotgun.
Have you heard of this yet? United Nations says online pollution.
How can you?
Hold on. Online pollution is a problem, especially those in forms of memes. So they have created an online policing tool that is AI. So what they're talking about is anything you're saying that doesn't toe their line, anything that goes against them, the conversations we have, the memes. If you're sharing, have you noticed like, I'll see something, and it's harder to share it now. I used to just hit share, and it would go into Messenger, and I could tag as many people as I want, and it would just send it. Now you can only tag a few people, and then I got to go back in and tag more people. And then a lot of times when you go, somebody will share something, send it to me, and it's blurred now. It says that it's disinformation or misinformation or harmful content, and I have to click once and sometimes even twice to be able to see. Have you noticed that when I've sent you anything?
And yet you can still get child porn on all the platforms. Great, guys. You guys are really winning out there because you blocked a meme. Pollution. And it's funny. It's funny that they're going after the woke culture by calling it pollution. You can't pollute the internet. It's not real. It's not real, guys. It's fake. It's not real. The internet is not real. Can't be polluted. And you don't have to look at a meme. It's just, it's amazing. It's just amazing. Amazing that I really do feel sorry for the next couple of generations, because we're either going to have a serious coming to Jesus moment and a nice little war, or you guys are going to be living in fucking incubators with phones and Walmart apps and. Well,
that's what was that Bruce Willis movie where you didn't go in public?
Yeah. You
sent your symbiote out in public or whatever.
Uh-huh.
That's but I think that. So you and I have conversations, us 3 here have these conversations, and then we get together with a few other people and have similar conversations. But I don't think that's the majority of the population. Like, you have just the low information, I got to get up and go to work. I hate my job, but I have to go to work so I can keep this shitty apartment. I think that that's the majority of the United States.
I don't think so.
I think you're right.
I think we've allowed. I think it's always been this way. The squeaky wheel gets the grease, and I think we've allowed 1% of the population, the squeaky wheel, to 1% of the population, that squeaky wheel, to push the narrative. And again, it goes back to what I said before. The only reason why any of this is possible, is because there's too many comfortable people in the world. If you're comfy and you're sitting in your living room and you're watching what you want on TV and you're looking and seeing what you want on your phone and you're eating what you want out of your refrigerator, does it really matter? Does it really matter that a bunch of mentally ill people in New York City are talking about going after your children? Does it really matter? I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm comfortable. I'm just sitting in front of my TV. I don't have to watch those crazy people in New York. And for a lot of people on the other side of the fence, New York doesn't even matter. Who cares what happens in New York City?
Speaking of going after your children, did you see all the Father's Day memes?
Uh-uh.
The dude at the airport on the payphone where they're walking.
Oh yeah. They made a patch.
He killed that motherfucker right there in the airport. Or the killdozer. The killdozer shit. Yeah. Somebody made a patch out of that guy. Yeah.
I mean, that's the way that shit should be handled.
And that's what I've been saying, right? They want you to feel like you're alone. They want to make an example out of somebody you know so that you are inferior yourself, right? Because they will come burn your shit down. This pushes out, they amplify the insane people, and then they suppress the people that are normal so that you feel like you are the
crazy
minority.
Person. Yeah.
And when I go out to, Nashville, for instance, right? I go out in Nashville and I wear a shirt that has an American flag. And every single place I go, people walk up and they're like, I love your shirt. Can I take a picture of your shirt? Like, it just gives you hope, right? I don't have any of the boy girls come up. They don't like the little weirdos and shit. And I'm just not, I mean, you see them because they wear a mask, right? They have the beacon on them that's blinking. I probably wouldn't even look at them if they weren't wearing a fucking costume out in public. But people, I think people, they're just tired of it, right? And that's the thing, right? But we only communicate through this thing. We don't talk face to face anymore. We don't go out and have conversations. I mean, I don't even speak on the phone. Like I actually talked to Bear on the phone the other day. I've talked to maybe 2, maybe 3 people, verbal communication this entire year. We only talk through this thing, and then they can manipulate what you say and control what you say.
I wonder if they can. I wonder if I know they can record everything, but we're at a technology point. We're at a technology point where
they can change your voice.
Oh yeah, they can do all that. They can do all that. I mean, they could, if they wanted to, they could make a podcast about us coming out gay if they wanted to. Yes. But I wonder if, because what happens is technology surpasses technology. It's like if we had rotary phones, if you had a rotary phone and I had a rotary phone, right? And I called you on the rotary phone. Would anybody know that I'm talking to you on the rotary phone? Right? Would anybody out there know?
Right, are they data mining that in some manner?
Because they're just not.
Or are they still going to have to do old school wiretap?
Because they're just not. That's the piece
I'm
of
surprised.
technology.
They do still push that infrastructure. Well, they still do put it in. I'm surprised that that's even a thing anymore.
Well, the reason why they push that
because it works during fucking EMP.
Well, not only EMP, but if there's a nuclear war,
that's what I'm saying.
They're using those phone lines.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering again. Technology, right? The home phone was surpassed by the cell phone. So when you think about the NSA, the NSA is listening to everything, but they still have to be focused on what they're listening to. So they backdoored your home computer and they see everything you're doing on your computer. They watch your phone. But I'm wondering if they are actually listening too, meaning because the technology is surpassed, everybody I know just texts, right? So if everybody is just texting, but you get on your phone and talk a normal conversation without them specifically, meaning what I'm saying is without them specifically.
Is there a record of the verbal communication?
Without them specifically looking at you, is the NSA saving voice conversations?
I'll bet they are.
I mean, I'm sure they are.
So,
but it's just interesting.
And I know you know this, but the way that works is, once you're on their radar,
yeah,
then they assign a team of analysts to go through everything you've ever every piece they have over in the fucking skiffs, those big
Utah
data. Yep, that's what I was going to say. Utah, Idaho. There's tons of them now.
But again, not on their radar. So Brandel, nobody at the NSA, FBI, nobody is thinking about Brandel. They're still collecting every piece of data that he puts out in the atmosphere. Everything, every text, those pictures you sent me, every one of them, they're collecting all that information so that when the day does come that Brandel is on the radar, it's not like they're doing a new search, right? They just search his past history and they're like, oh, these are all the people he knows. This is where he goes, blah, blah, blah. That's why everybody that talks now about, falling off the radar, it's the phone. You kill the phone.
Well,
kill the phone and kill the computer, and they won't even know you exist.
Bear did something on Patreon. I think it was Monday. That's what he was talking about. Yeah. He goes, when the time comes, you're going to have to be very silent. Like there's a time when you got to get rid of this thing. And then I had a conversation the other day, and the dude's like, I'm getting a flip phone.
Problem
it doesn't do any of the other shit.
The problem with the idea of get rid of this thing, like, okay, again, if you say when the time comes, get rid of the phone. The problem with that is the phone has already recorded all your habits, all your places, everything that you're interested in, the coffee you drink. The phone has already give them focal points for the search for you. Meaning it's not just about throw your phone in the toilet.
Yeah, my phone.
You gotta fucking leave.
Yeah, my phone. It says, hey, on this day last year, you did this trip to Atlanta, and here's all the places. Here's your memories, right? It has it all. It knows that because my GPS is turned on and I use Google Maps and shit. But it also knows because it has a data stamp on all those photos and all those videos, right? So my phone's always full, and I've been deleting it. It's all on the cloud. There's a record of and even if you think that it's not there, it's there. It's just there. Who's going to access it.
It's whose cloud it is.
So my dad hit me up the other day, and my dad's he's in his 80s. I mean, my parents were over 30 when we were born, right? So my dad's going to these town hall meetings, right? He's local government in Arizona, like Sedona, Arizona and shit. And he's like, I need to screen record these videos. I need to record these videos as they're happening, because when you listen to them after the fact, you don't see the comments. And I don't know why they've done that, right? The video is there now. Like when I used to do live videos, you could go back a year later, a month later, whatever, and you'd see all the comments. The comments aren't there, so there's not a lot of context to it. So he's like, how do I do this? So I've asked Brandel, and Brandel's like, he needs an Apple computer. So my dad's like, okay, I've looked at these Apple computers. They're very expensive. I bought cars that cost less than these computers. And I'm like, yeah, I get it, Dad. Everything's overvalued. And the conversation led to this. And I said, he said, your insight about communications is very perceptive and on the mark. And I said, I speak a lot about it. Most of us communicate through a phone and on an app that can be suppressed or amplified. They amplify the voice of the insane, people we literally would have put in lunatic asylums. Then they suppress the voice of those with family values and morals. The goal is to make normal people feel alone and fearful to speak up and push back. There is a war coming. I said it'll be a very different war, without uniforms, neighbor against neighbor, and no rules, no oversight. And he said, I agree. You make a number of good points in your message. As for the war, I think it's been in the Cold War stage for quite some time. Communicate through messenger is a frustrating method for me, like writing on a postage stamp. With thumb typing doesn't make it better. He said, not looking forward to an open guerrilla warfare. it wasn't fun the last time. He was talking about, Vietnam.
Yeah. Gorilla? I don't know. I think if the balloon pops here in the United States, it's going to be.
Well, there will be gorilla.
I think if the balloon pops here in the United States, it's going to be very violent, very fast, but also over pretty quick. I think it'll be over pretty quick. I think that it'll be very violent, terrible thing, but I think it won't. Like if people think they're going to be living in guerrilla camps in the mountains, that's not going to happen. Because first off, you're talking about a segment of society who's actually trained and prepared to fight war against a segment of society that can't function outside of a city. I think it's going to be really violent, really bad, and over pretty quick.
How long?
It just depends on how it starts.
Weeks, months,
couple months, 6 months.
You're still going
maybe
to have guerrilla operations. I mean,
6 months maybe.
As soon as you have the power, because what is government, right? Government is
no.
Okay, go ahead.
What I'm saying is, again, this is the thing that worries me about. This is the thing that worries me about the right side of the house, is, when that momentum goes, when it happens, it's going to be a crushing victory. It's going to be, they're not going to be, the city of Chaz is not going to be holding out to the last minute. The city of Chaz won't exist. It won't exist. And anybody that was responsible, part of, hold counsel with, will be gone.
To include entire families.
That's what I'm saying. Will be gone, and I'm not just talking about
like a genocide cleansing.
I'm not just talking about like the city of Chaz. I'm talking about the mayor of Seattle. I'm talking about anybody who took part, and that's again 100% terrible to think that is even it shouldn't even be a thought. It shouldn't even be. We should be able to have political recourse in this country where we can discuss these matters, but the left.
But it's continuity of government. It's not continuity of society, right? So these people go underground.
No, man.
If they get into Camp Weather, wherever they go,
they're not going to.
They have the ability. You don't think that
there's not going to be.
You don't think politicians would use biological warfare, chemical warfare, or nuclear warfare against U.S. citizens?
Nope. Won't happen.
I hope you're right.
It won't happen. It'll be such a crushing thing. Because here's the thing about you need to understand, John. Or you do understand. But the thing about politicians is politicians are windblown. They are windblown. They are going to be backpedaling and attempting.
Fair weather fans.
Yes, they are going to be backpedaling and attempting to be on the side that wins. They're going to be that's what's going to happen. And the same thing when you think about major corporations in this country that have gone to wokeism. They're doing it because they think they can benefit from it. Because they think they can benefit from ESG. But
they have to do it because they're in bed with ESG and to get that funding from State Street and BlackRock.
BlackRock.
Because it's one world governance.
Yeah, but BlackRock doesn't matter. BlackRock doesn't matter when
Did you see Bud Light giving away beer for the 4th of July?
Yeah.
They just had they're into this for fucking 90 days now. This Bud Light just had its worst week in profits.
They secretly fired all those people too.
Yeah, it's out. Yeah. It's out public now. Yeah. Apparently they fired that bitch like right when it happened. That was supposed to. She was fired. But that company's dying. Did you see the World Health Organization and China has been saying that there's a new variant of COVID? Okay, so there's like 30 of these fucking things. And the new variation of COVID is the same symptoms you had before, but now it includes pink eye. So if you see motherfuckers walking around with their fucking eyes all runny and shit, they got chlamydia, syphilis, gonorrhea, or COVID.
Or COVID, yeah.
All your STDs you can actually get in your eyes. So stop eating dirty pussy. That's real. That's not bullshit.
Get a little splash in your eyeballs. That
Get
what it is?
something in
Yeah.
there.
A little poop,
Something.
little E. coli.
But the World Health Organization has signed on to, who was it? I think it was Canada's this health passport thing, right? So it's an app on your phone.
Yeah.
If you're not vaccinated, your shit's all red. You can't travel, and that has a lot to do with these 15-minute cities and all this shit, and where you're at. You're not able to move out of your zone, and you can't go to certain stores because of this.
The only way any of that works is if Americans don't have guns.
Correct. Oh,
That's
absolutely.
the only way it doesn't work.
But that's the whole push. That's why you have all these companies saying global company now. It's not U.S. company. It's not patriotic company. Everything's global. It's all the Klaus Schwab and all that bullshit.
Yeah, but they bought into something. The problem is the people that are running, the 1,000 people that are running the planet, they bought into something that they thought was bigger than it really was. So when we talk about ESG and inclusivity and all that stuff, they bought into it thinking that those movements were bigger than they actually were. And those movements aren't that big. And so that's why you have Target and you have Bush and you have these American companies or former American companies that are taking a dive and doing everything they can to stay afloat because they bought into something that wasn't real.
Have you seen any of the...
Because again, even if the LGBT community, was like, hey, we can't allow them to tank. We need to everybody stop drinking anything else and just it would not save the company.
No.
So they bought into something that's not real.
Did you see? There's some video. I think you mentioned this. Al Gore. There's some video of Al Gore out there saying he made up climate change.
Yeah.
Have you seen any? That was in my head. Have you seen any of the? I think last week before on the podcast we talked about Target and the kids and the tuckable shit and how it was all they had 1T, 2T, 3T right there. I mean, literally right there with the fucking 5X adult men's swimsuits so they could tuck their penises and shit. So all the kid shit's right there with the adult tuckable shit to include all your pet stuff. They got gay pride stuff for your dogs and all that right there. So we were talking about Target. That was built into a short. It wasn't even crazy. Like, it couldn't be misconstrued. There was 15 seconds of our conversation, and I think it was on TikTok as well as Instagram. I think this happened both places, but we had a bunch of people jump on who were like, "That's not true. That's not what happened." And then there's a ton of people like, "It's very," because I'm like, "Hey, I went to Target. I went over there, and I didn't take any video. There's tons of video out there. We didn't even fucking go into Target. Like we went to Jackson to go to Target." And I forgot to go to Target. And people are like, "That's bullshit. You didn't go there. That's not what happened." It's just crazy. I don't think they're making it up to cover. I think they truly believe that it's not true.
There's plenty of people out there that their heads are so far in the sand that they can't see. They can't see what's going on around them. I would say, here's the truth. I would say that the majority of the Democratic Party has their heads buried in the sand, that they do not see this left-wing agenda that is destroying the Democratic Party.
Here's another.
Because you can't consciously vote Democrat with what they are pushing. You can't do it.
You don't go to Starbucks, right?
No.
Okay. But you've been to Starbucks.
Because you've dragged me there.
Right. So we would go to town and eat. We'd go to Starbucks, and typically we would walk in, place an order, get your coffee within a few minutes. Coffee was always right. Business ran pretty well. It was pretty organized. It was comfortable to sit there. The last few years, everything's fucking scattered, thrown up in the air, and you've got all the Kool-Aid hairs and all the weirdos and these fucking meltdown kids and shit.
Right.
A couple weeks ago, Starbucks, when all the Bud Light shit started happening, Starbucks said, "Hey, no
politics,
no Gay Pride Month. We're not doing it." Right? So typically you will go to Starbucks in Jackson's a good example. Some of them in Nashville. You'll walk in and there's just it's loud. The employees are all like, all the drinks are backed up. You've got a bunch of fucking Kool-Aid hairs. You've got a bunch of motherfuckers still wearing masks and shit in there. The last couple weeks, I didn't think anything about it. We stopped last weekend and the weekend before, and there's 3 different Starbucks in Jackson. So we stop, we walk in, and I'm like, Amanda's like, did you notice there's all adults in there? I go, yeah, it's like there's actually a fucking manager there again. There's no bullshit going on. Everything's clean. The bathrooms aren't fucking wrecked. There's like actual employees there. I think that's what it is. They said, hey, no Pride Month, and I don't think it's that it's necessarily gay people. I think it's all the other fucking wackos that are tagged onto the back end of that movement, and they fucking have walked out in protest, and now you have real fucking human beings running those stores again.
Well, it should be. Here's the.
Like at this point, mask out in public, dead giveaway. That's a crazy person.
Well, it should be. You know, I don't need Starbucks or McDonald's or Walmart. I don't need Target. I don't need any one of those corporations to tell me what month it is.
Correct.
By what they display. They are corporations. They should be providing services, and that's it. There should be no politics.
Correct.
I don't care if the whole board of directors is homosexuals or what, or purple people or whoever. It shouldn't matter. They should just be providing a product, and then they can continue to get rich because they provide a good product and a good service. But so many companies have been trying this woke bullshit, and guys, they can't run a commune. It's never going to work.
Bernie Sanders got kicked out of the commune.
Yeah, it's never going to work, guys. It's not going to work.
Communism, that's where commune comes from.
You don't hire the lowest common denominator and be like, hey, guess what? We're going to have good service and good products. No, you're not. You're going to have garbage. You're going to have a submarine that implodes 10 feet underneath the fucking water. That's what you're going to have because you don't want to hire legitimate engineers.
All right, I got to pee again. So we'll go ahead and cut this off. Last words, comments, statements.
Don't put chicken bouillon in your butt. It's not going to help you at all.
You can only use the beef in there.
You got to mix it right, but don't do that. I think that's it. I think don't put chicken bouillon in your butt. Stop it.
Pokeweed. Look up pokeweed.
Pokeweed? What do we use it for?
Well, they'll immediately tell you that it's poisonous and it'll kill you, and it could. But
what's it good for?
A ton of shit.
Awesome.
A ton of
Pokeweed.
shit. Yes. There's a lot of things that you've been told that are toxic to you, and maybe they are.
Well, I mean,
to you,
even
normal humans.
Even arsenic is toxic, but we produce our own arsenic, and low doses of arsenic is not deadly.
Vitamin B12 is arsenic based. You should probably look into that to stop taking that shit.
Wait, vitamin B12.
Arsenic based.
What do I do? But then when you try and poison me with Diet Pepsi laced with arsenic, I'm going to be like, been taking that shit for years.
I'll get you, my pretties.